Yes, so I got a chance to get into the Heroic Cenarius Legion Alpha test that went on earlier today, and we're gonna go straight into the mechanics first. First off, we're gonna show you Malfurion Storm Rage's stuff. He's gonna cause cleansing ground. Basically, what that is your allies, whichever tree that they group near, it's going to cause that Force of Nightmare, which is the ad sets, to come to your side and also cause cleanse ground. What cleanse ground is going to do, it's going to act like the light in Su Long in the Temple of the Endless Springs, and remove a debuff that you selectively get. It's called Creeping Nightmares. Creeping Nightmares is going to end up causing shadow damage, and this stacks. And it stacks and it stacks, and the only way to get rid of it is to step into this safety zone to remove it. Nightmare Brambles is going to fixate on a person. You'll see the little devil eyes up above their head. It's going to chase them down, but every 2 seconds as it's pathing towards that person, it's going to drop a rooting snare. And you want to end up kiting it correctly. You'll see we had a lot of issues with this in the footage I'll show you here in a minute. Dreadthorns is another ability. Basically, you want to tank all the ads away from Cenarius. He causes 50% of all damage dealt to be reflected back, so you will nuke yourself if the ads are next to the boss. Forces of Nightmare are actually the ads that I'm talking about. They'll end up coming in, and you'll get to cleanse one of these to use it towards you, and we'll get to that part in a second. Basically, Malfurion will be the one to cleanse them, but Corrupted Wisps. Many corrupted wisps will spawn around the edges of the room. If these guys get out, they need to be picked up and kited quick by the ranged. You don't want them to hit you because they will blow up and cause destructive nightmares, which is huge AoE damage within 10 yards. It stacks up, it's a lot of damage once it starts going out. The Nightmare Treant, it's going to do Desecrating Stomp. Basically, this is a meteor stomp. It's going to split the damage amongst everyone within 8 yards. You're going to want to bring your melee in for this fight also, guys, so they can stack up, and you don't have to worry about your range getting into the group and accidentally messing everything up. If no one's tanking this mob, the Desiccation is going to kick in, and it's going to cause mass panic and probably kill everybody in a very short amount of time. The Rotten Drake, it's going to do Rotten Breath, which randomly faces in a general direction and channels a breath in a cone. Does a decent amount of damage. I'm not going to say a lot. It's not that bad until after it casts Nightmare Buffet, which increases shadow damage dealt by 20%. It only does this when it's at low health, so when you decide to attack this thing, stick to it, commit, and kill it fast. Twisted Sisters. They got a couple abilities. Nightmare Javelin, it is dispellable, and it does a ticking damage over 6 seconds. Not that bad, really. It never really affected much, but the one you got to watch out for is Twisted Touch of Life. It is a heal. It's going to do an initial heal and then a hot. You can interrupt this thing or you can purge it. If this thing gets off, make sure you've got somebody ready to purge it or mass dispel it. And then the other thing they've got is Scorn Touch. After a while, they just end up casting this huge AoE. Does a bunch of damage to everyone, and if you're within 8 yards, reduces your movement speed by 50%. Allies of Nature, this is after Malfurion cleanses, and you select which ones you want to cleanse. But the Wisps, if they are cleansed, basically they're going to put little pools of cleansed ground around that you can end up letting your range use instead of having them run all the way back and forth. It helps out a lot for keeping spread for some of the damage. So you can just touch and go on these little things, but they are about 1/10 of the size of the normal ones, so you got to remember that. Touch and go. Don't stand in it, you'll waste stacks that way. Cleansed Ancient, this is basically a mana battery for your healers. I'd probably do this, do the Wisp on the first one, Cleansed on the Ancient. That's kind of what we were going for, and what it's going to do is every now and then it'll do like a Tranquility effect, and it replenishes 3% of max mana every second to nearby allies, and it seems to cast this for right around 10 seconds. Awesome stuff, guys. I would definitely stick around this guy if he's up. Emerald Drake is going to be your tank buff. If you feel like your tank's going to end up dying and dying soon, they're going to want to be the closest one to the tree or to the egg in this situation. If it gets cleansed, and the Drake's going to come out and put this buff on him that increases healing received by 25%, and if an attack that would otherwise kill them, instead of doing it, it'll put them to 50% of their max health, but remove that Ancient Dream effect. And then you've got the Redeemed Sisters. They cast Unbound Touch. Unbound Touch grants immunity to shadow damage. Everything in this damn fight is shadow damage, and it also removes movement and parrying effects, increase movement speed by 75%. It'll do this for a 6-yard radius after 4 seconds. So make sure you're stacked in each of these groups, the whole group. And then stage 2 starts at 30%, or if you've got all the waves done. And I'm not sure how many waves are going to be there, and we never hit stage 2, but it continues casting Creeping Nightmares. This is your lust phase also, by the way. Nightmare Brambles it continues casting. And the other thing that it continues, let's see, the other 2 things that it does is a Spear Nightmares, which is tank swap mechanic, and also a kiting mechanic. You want to use your mitigations and your bigger cooldowns for this, because it's going to do a huge whopping amount of damage. As you can see right there in the tooltip, it says 5 million damage, and then it stacks up, but each one increases the damage by 100% the next time around. So you want to stack on 1 on each one of these. Stays for 25 seconds, and then it's going to also drop a pool of shit underneath you depending on how much damage you end up taking. Okay, that being said, you're going to drop the pool of shit, you're going to kite it out, but you're going to want to save a cooldown for that ability. And then the other one that comes up is Entangling Nightmares. Basically, Malfurion is trapped inside of one of the little bramble patches, and you got to break him out before he dies, and then he'll come back and he'll throw Cleansing Ground down again, and you can remove your debuff stacks. Again, like I said, 30%, you're definitely going to want to use this as your hero or lust situation. We're getting ready to go on now. You can go ahead and continue reading through if you wish to, but we're going to go ahead on to some of the footage real quick here in just a brief moment, guys. So hang tight and we'll get to it. So here he is, the big bad Cenarius himself, and you can see him all corrupted. We're actually sitting at the base of the World Tree where you fought Archimon back in the Battle of Hyjal, guys, for Mount Hyjal. This is that's basically where you see that swirling vortex is where the tree once was, and the Nightmare has destroyed it. But keep an eye out here. You'll see a couple of the different things that we talked about. The Wisp right now, they were the ones that we ended up putting on the ally side, and you can see the little pools down on the ground. What those are the cleansing areas, and you can see the stacking debuff up on the debuff corner right there. Once I run into it, you'll see right now I'm going to step into it and cleanse my debuff. There it goes. The breath from the Drake itself, very hard to control it because it's random. And you can see the bramble patches right there, the Nightmare Brambles, and they're leaving the little pods behind the snaring roots, just like in the actual Emerald Nightmare, Darkheart Thicket dungeon. But these, they cause a lot of damage, and it seemed we had a lot of issues with actually getting people to move them right. This was a pug group that I ended up getting into, and all in all they were pretty decent, but there was a lot of work that could have been done, but we only had an hour to work on this. A lot of the damage that we ended up receiving that I noticed was coming from the breath, which I did stand in it a lot too, but it didn't seem to be too terribly bad until they forgot. You can see we got the dragon this time, or I'm sorry, that's someone's trinket, the dragon. But depending on where the most amount of your group of people are, you'll see these trees spawn in different locations, and the closer your people are to that tree, that's where the cleansing is actually going to be. It's not going to be on the people themselves, at least it wasn't during this test, and that may be what they go for. So, that being said, we're going to continue on with another pull here, and I'll show you a bit more. You're really going to want to keep an eye out too. Just watch the way the health's spiking. You'll see you can kite this Brambles patch. If you pay attention to where it starts at, you'll get the little eyes above your head. And if you pay attention to where those eyes are at and where the patch is at, you can actually kite this along the edge of the room, and no one ever has to really worry about it. But you'll see a couple deals. I think we had the hunter run it into the group once and just kind of stand there, and we just cut through it basically. But mana is a huge issue right now. You're definitely, because of how healing intensive this fight is, you're going to want to make sure that you're going to want to use the tree probably on the second deal. I would suggest Wisp first, tree on the second for your allied ability, just to get that extra mana up. And then however it goes afterwards. But again, this is alpha, this is heroic. We weren't meant to kill this. The scaling is way high, so it doesn't die. because Blizzard's just trying to get accumulated data of how much is supposed to go out there. So again, this was not made to be killed in this alpha testing. But you can see how the tanks, we have one of the tanks that's got Cenarius way over there, the dragon's on the other side. That's to keep that that reflective off the brambles, not brambles, I'm sorry. Your Dreadthorns. The Dreadthorns is the reflective deal, and the more damage you end up doing to that ad, the more damage you're doing to yourself if they're within range of that Dreadthorn's ability on the tank. Or I'm sorry, on Cenarius. Now you can see that was a good kiting on those Nightmare Brambles, basically keeping it grouped up and keeping it in a straight line so people can work around it and actually see it instead of running it directly in the group. You can see how they're still kiting it a little ways. Every 2 seconds as this thing passes, you can see it's going to leave the same general. Now here's the wisps coming out, and you'll see people just getting nuked because they're all stacked up and they all get caught up by these things, and they just get destroyed because of how many are stacked there. This part here, you're going to want to end up having the range automatically. Probably a hunter use barrage or something. Barrage might actually be useful with all the shit that it grabs, and have them pick them up right away and kind of kite. I don't know if that's going to work. They don't seem to have a fixate right now. They seem to kind of float wherever the hell they damn please. And if you get a range that's good enough to pick them up, I'm not sure if they can be slowed or snared, or I'm sorry, stunned, but that'll be another thing, and you just want to nuke them quick. And again, they had a really high amount of health too. They'll probably be adjusted on live. So here it is again. We ended up getting the tree with the wisps. You can tell the difference because that's got the wisps around it. The regular tree is going to be the tree ad. There's a dragon egg, and then the other one we didn't really mess with too much, but you'll see it change up here in a few minutes too. But again, the whole point of this fight is to basically control your debuff, just like the Sulong fight in Terrace of the Endless Springs, if you ended up doing that during Mr. Pandaria. You've got a basic kiting mechanic that's going with the Nightmare Brambles. You've got a ton of AoE damage going out, so you may want to bring an extra healer just for progression, unless you got a really solid team that knows how to get the hell out of stuff and get out of it quick. And then basically tanks, you're going to end up doing general tanking. You'll have an ad tank and you'll have the main boss tank until phase 2, and that's when your tank swap's going to kick in. I didn't notice a tank swap at the beginning. It doesn't mention anything, so I'm just kind of going off of what I've seen. But again, tank them 2 different locations, and then control where you're wanting, what you're wanting next. We always notice that top left, you'll see that's always where the wisps are at. It seems like the tree is always in the top right, but one of them seems to always be missing also. And you'll notice that coming up here. See, we just ended up doing the sister, and she's going to come out, she's going to do the heal and everything, and there it goes, boom. She's tossing out her heal and causing all kinds of fun little stuff to end up happening. But it seemed like the first few, we were getting all 4 of them, and then it seemed like halfway through they did an adjustment and we were only getting 3. It would be a toss-up between that we always would end up with the wisp one, and the dragon, but it seemed like the sister and the tree kind of alternated between one and the other. So that might have been a hot fix that they put in while we were doing the raid testing, and we'll have to go back and see this on live to actually see how it's playing out. But currently, take a little bit more of a look here, guys. Just kind of notice what you're getting ready to get into. This is in the Emerald, Emerald Nightmare, not the Emerald Dream, but the Emerald Nightmare. And this is the first raid, I believe, is out. But Cenarius is actually technically the second to the last boss. There's him, and then you've got Xavius, and then that's the end of the Emerald Nightmare. So he is going to be considered pretty tough, being a second to the last boss. They don't want to make him no weenie. They want to make it to where he's going to be a challenge, just like every other dungeon you've seen. The last 2 bosses are usually the hardest, unless it's an open one, and then they kind of open it up back and forth. So nothing big there, but just remember, he is made to be a super tough boss. So when he comes live, don't expect him to be too much easier, but he'll at least be killable. And again, this is alpha. It is heroic mode. It is not the normal. The normal mode is, we might have been able to kill it on this. Who knows? if it were just normal. So again, it's made to be a tough boss. It's made to not be killed because it is alpha, and it's made to be caught with content. It looked like most of the mechanics were working really well. The only thing I wish they would do is you'll see the trees, you'll see the way the stuff's popping up. It's a very noticeable mechanic, but if they could do something a bit more with the brambles, maybe change a little bit of the ground color here to where it's a little easier, because when you're high pace, and then this ability right here that does the slow from the sister, the evil sister, not the good sister. It kind of sounds like good witch, bad witch, but that slow right there is really hard to notice also, and getting out of the group so before it does damage is another big pain in the ass. We did, probably in the hour, we probably got a good 15-20 attempts in, and I'm showing you some of the better ones that we got. And as you can see, even with it being better, we still have a lot of areas to clean up, and this was a pick up group. It was a pug, guys. It was not any, there was nobody in here I knew. We were using Mumble for our communication, just to, you know, kind of work strat over. At least the people that started it were working strat over, and everyone seemed to listen really good. That's the key thing about getting a lot of this stuff done, is making sure you're listening, following, and also paying attention to your mechanics and your debuffs. Don't just tunnel. You'll see right here, alright, that Boomkin's kiting pretty decent, but he's going the wrong damn direction. Good kiting on it though. Grouped it up nicely. That's perfect. That's what you're going to want to end up looking at doing when you get into live. Making sure it's up there. Outside of that, guys, I really don't have too much more to say on this, except take a look at these mechanics, check them out, feel it out a bit, because it's not a very complicated fight. It's just got a lot to remember, and a ton of damage. Again, you may want to bring an extra healer to this, and your second time, like your second wave of ads, you're probably going to want to release that tree just to let your healers get a bit more mana back, because right now we'll get through the first set of ads and everybody was I mean completely Check out the mana bars, you can check this stuff out. But fun fight, really fun fight. And I do also have some more other content coming for you guys. I have the other raid test boss, which was Cenarius, and he is part of the Nighthold, I believe is the other raid. You've got Surmar Palace, you've got the Emerald Nightmare, and the Nighthold, I believe, is the other one. And he's supposed to be part of the actual hard raid content. So we'll see how that one ends up turning out. But until then, guys, go ahead and finish watching out the video. Check it out. Let me know what you think. And thanks. If you enjoyed it, like, subscribe. We'll get you some more footage coming out here and get you some more content videos and some more strategy guides for your classes as we progress through the Legion Alpha. Thanks again. Alright, so this is going to actually conclude our video here. I'm going to put a link up in the top right hand corner up here if you guys want to continue on to another video, or if you want to search and see what else I've got, you can always hit the channel. It's well appreciated, guys. If you do like the content that you're seeing, go ahead and give me a like. Hit it with a subscribe. It's not for me, but it's to get it out to everybody else. If you think you like it, hit that button so other people can see it. And the subscribe is just to get you the latest up-to-date content. So, enjoy yourself, and we'll see you in the next video. Thanks again, guys.